Good morning, students. In this lecture, I'm going to talk about interferons. For your syllabus, you have what are interferons, nomenclature, how the classification is done, what are the factors which induce interferon, how antiviral effect is brought about by interferons, the antiviral proteins or the in after induction of cell getting inducted by the interferon, what are the proteins it synthesizes, and on dependent on what pathway it synthesizes, whether it recognizes this interferons are synthesized based on the RNA component or based on the DNA component of the virus or the other components which are normally synthesized as the target pathways. So it was known for a long time that if you have a cell which is infected with virus, that can block or inhibit the infection of other virus. That is what people were trying to find out. Like, what happens if one cell gets infected with the virus, and then check whether the other cell can be tolerant to this virus if you are exposing that to some of the properties of the virus. That is, like, suppose you think when a patient is ill with measles, it is rare to find that the person has chickenpox also at the same time. You can either have one infection at one time. So what they did was they took growing of viruses, that is easily can be done in egg. So they grew group of scientists, which I'll tell you who are they in the later slides, grew influenza virus in chick chorioallantoic membrane. And what they did was they isolated the virus, and the media which was free from virus, they infected another chorioallantoic membrane and then injected the virus. So now uh, they treated the membrane, what was treated with virus free supernatant, there was resistance to infection by the same virus. Here what they have used is influenza virus, so the membrane was resistant to influenza virus. So they concluded that after viral infection, a substance that can impart resistance or the ability to resist a virus infection was secreted that into the medium. They named it as material interferon or interfering material. Since then, these two are the scientists, uh, Alec Isaac and Lindemann in 1957. They made this first observation and reported it. That is what is later led to a series of identification or series of um, things which later developed this beautiful concept of interferons. That was the first cytokine what they isolated, and later on many people started finding out what are the different types of cytokines under viral induction and non-viral inducers. If you have some component of the virus like this double stranded RNA, whether it will induce the same components. Then further, as things go advance in technology happened, they cloned many of the interferons, and the first FDA approved interferon gamma was into market in 2000. So interferons are very beautiful concept. They are the powerful immunomodulatory substances available which can have a therapeutic use. They are naturally occurring proteins or glycoproteins which are secreted by eukaryotic cell when there is viral infection. So structurally they are like helical cytokine family which are characterized by amino acid chain that is 145 to 166 amino acid long. So they are highly important because they have anti-proliferative and apoptotic effects on the cell. So how do they cause antiviral activity? So yeah, if you take these proteins, they are synthesized when there is infection of the cells. That is, the cell which gets infected synthesize this, and it is put out of the cells without lysing the cells. So once one host cell is infected and putting out, the same is taken up by the other cell. You have the receptors, they are membrane receptors on the adjacent cell. Immediately next is taken up, is take this protein, and then there is some signal transduction. You can see in the later slides, the signal from the membrane is taken into the cell, and the cell synthesizes some of its defense proteins that can act as a block for viral reproduction. This viral reproduction block, now how does a virus spread from one cell to other cell? First the virus takes up into one cell, say this host cell 1. When the virus makes an entry, it will, if it is a lytic virus, directly synthesizes the nucleic acid and the required protein machinery, the capsid components, and then it packages itself and then attacks the neighboring cell. So if an interferon is produced during this time, the neighboring cell is prepared to combat this virus. Then when the neighboring cell is attacked by this virus, this ready-made machinery, which is in almost inactive form, suddenly becomes activated by the presence of nucleic acid or the capsid proteins, and then together action may stop the viral replication. As far as HIV also, there are our system which fights back, but viruses take over this by fastly multiplying or hijacking this interferon machinery, which during the viral replications I have explained that some of the machineries are interferon machineries are the first to be silenced by these viruses, and then they take over by multiplying, and then like increasing in number and then showing lysis of the adjacent cell. So this presence of this viral reduces the uh, viral replication, that is they have antiviral property. So coming to classification, initially when the identification has happened, so people used to classify based on the cells which are synthesizing or based on the cells which will act. Okay, so initially based on the antigenic specificity, there were three types of interferons. Interferons are written as in capital alphabets IFN, that universally represents interferons. So there were three groups. The first group were consisting of alpha interferons, which is still there. The alpha, beta and gamma is still accepted nomenclature, but the grouping might be slightly different in the refined nomenclature. During 1980, they were grouped into alpha, beta, gamma based on the cells which produced and based on the final action on what cells. Alpha interferons are produced by cells infected with virus that they attract and stimulate the natural killer cells and enhance resistance to viral infection. Beta interferons secreted by fibroblasts slow inflammation in a damaged area. Gamma interferons are secreted by T cells and natural killer cells that stimulate the macrophage activity. So later, as they started understanding more about the pathways of this interferons, the refined nomenclature was based on the receptor types. Basically, they initially it was divided into two groups, but currently it is three groups which is accepted. But when you come to mode of action, like what are the receptor general properties, or what is the general properties of signal transduction, you boil down to two types: type 1 interferon, type 2 interferon, type 3 interferon. The type 1 interferon, uh, they recognize a set of like when I come to the receptors, I will tell interferon AR1 or R2 combination, and then you have subtypes, 7 subtypes. They are like interferon beta, interferon delta, interferon epsilon, interferon kappa, interferon tau, interferon omega, and interferon zeta. uh, Interferon zeta. So interferon alpha, beta, epsilon, kappa, omega are all found in humans, but interferon delta, tau, and zeta have been described in pigs, cattle, and mice. There are no human homologs of these three, that is delta, tau, and zeta. Uh, all this interferons type 1 have structural homology and bind to heterodimeric receptor consisting of interferon alpha or beta R1 and interferon alpha or beta R2, and these are like these types of receptor which are expressed by most of the cell types. uh, Okay, further we'll see what kind of activation it continues with. Interferon type 2 groups has only one interferon, that is interferon gamma, which recognizes interferon gamma receptor 1 or 2. The third group of interferon recognizes receptors belong to IL-10 R beta or IL-28 R alpha family of receptors. Under that you have interferon lambda 1, which is also called as in IL-29, interferon gamma 2, interferon gamma 3, interferon gamma 4 is also present now. Type 1 and type 3 interferons recognize and act almost similar type of receptors, and internal transduction also is very similar. So further what I am going to explain for type 1 holds good for most of the type 3 protein, but type 1 type of interferons activates more of signal transduction than type 3 type of interferon. So coming to type 1, type 1, the most prominent of the 7 types of interferon, or in humans the 4 types of interferon is alpha and beta. These two are the most prominent, so I'll concentrate further transduction onto interferon alpha and beta. They are type 1 interferons. When prototypic cell of the origin is exposed to viruses or double-stranded RNA or polypeptide and a type of cytokines, type 1 interferons are produced. In type 1 interferons, alpha and beta is the most studies and most extensively produced. Alpha interferons are produced by leukocytes, beta interferons are produced by fibroblasts. Both bind to interferon cell receptor type 1, and then both they are encoded from the chromosome 9p arm. They have different binding affinities but similar biological effects. Viral interferons viral infection is the stimulus for production of alpha and beta type of interferons. They are used to mobilize our first line of defense against invading microorganism, and they are the largest group and secreted by almost all cells. Now what triggers this? A viral infection triggers this. When there is viral infection, I have in some of the viral pathway I have mentioned the RIG 1 MVS pathway, and also when there is infection with DNA viruses, there is some pathway called as the C gas sting signaling pathway, which are activated by these viruses. When you have a double strand RNA or a single strand RNA getting converted to a double strand RNA, there are this sting gas proteins which get interacted, and they activate and or they phosphorylate IRF3 protein. This phosphorylation initiates the production of interferons. At the interferon recognition sequence, interferons are produced. Another pathway is the RIG MAV pathway, which will also activate certain transducer. In that, the final is the activation of the interferon producing signals. So the first group recognizes that is the alpha and beta interferons. They bind to similar type of receptor. The receptor is composed of two subunit, interferon AR1 and interferon AR2. So when there is binding of this interferon, there is recruitment of the Janus tyrosine kinases. That is, two different types of Janus tyrosine kinases are a huge group of signal transduction proteins that recognize a specific type of signal binding onto receptor. Like you have TYK2, JAK1, JAK2, like that bind to STAT protein. The STAT protein means signal transducer and activators of transcription. They once there is binding of this alpha or beta interferon onto the receptor, there is recruitment of this Janus tyrosine kinase JAK1 and TYK2, and they are phosphorylated. Internal kinase signals will phosphorylate this Janus protein that will recruit the STAT protein, STAT1 and STAT2, and they also get phosphorylated. Once the STAT1 and STAT2 gets phosphorylated, they come out of this receptor complex and they get heterodimerization occurs. When after heterodimerization, they travel to the nucleus and they bind to DNA binding protein, that is P48. It is also called as interferon stimulated gene factor 3. So this STAT1 and STAT2 heterodimer bind to interferon stimulated gene factor 3, which binds to the interferon stimulated response element, ISRE. Further, many places you will get this ISRE. That means interferon stimulated response element of alpha and beta responsive genes, and there is induction of interferon target genes responsible for biological effects of interferons and alpha and beta interferons. So first pathway what I was telling was, that is a virus inducing this type 1 or type 1 interferons. The presence of double stranded RNA, the presence of this one DNA viruses, certain components, maybe the polysaccharide components or the double stranded RNA component. Here what is explained is double stranded RNA will induce production of interferons by binding to the IRE elements. And once this interferons, type 1 interferons are produced, they go and bind to the cell surface receptor. They continue with this JAK-STAT pathway. This is the first type of pathway. There are another two pathways which are getting stimulated by type 1 interferon. The JAK-STAT pathway, what you have to remember here is TYK2 and JAK1 proteins are involved, and the STATs are heterodimer. They bind with ISGF3 and they induce ISRE, that is interferon stimulated response protein. The next type of pathway which gets induced is the VAC VAV RAC pathway. This RAC is a protein that belongs to Rho family member, RHO family members. They have a very important role in regulation of actin polymerization. Okay, which is very important for cell shape and migration. There are some viruses when they want to infect a cell, like enveloped viruses, when they want to infect a cell, they bind to the cell membrane, and the cell membrane fuses, and then put the in case of Rosacoma virus, when the entry of the cell happens, they just fuse to the membrane and they put the capsid inside. When the capsid is inside the cell cytoplasm, because of this active actin polymerization, it cannot move and they cause depolymerization. But this group of protein, they induce certain pathways which will cause actin polymerization. So Rho family members is in the regulation of actin polymerization. They importantly activate two types of kinases, that is MAP kinases and JNK kinases, that is C-Jun N-terminal kinase and P38 MAP kinase. This is very important pathway. So once there is type 1 interferon binding to the receptor, they activate this VAV protein, which internal activate RAC1. They activate MAP kinase that activate MAP kinase. They 3 and 6. Further they activate the P38, and further they activate MAP kinase, which will activate CREP and histone 3, which has a very important function in chromatin remodulation. Okay, so the type 1 is very important. In addition to this JAK-STAT pathway, and this is called as MAPK cascade, they also interact and activate the NF-kappa B signaling pathway. So altogether, when there is binding of interferon 1 type 1 to the receptor, interferon alpha beta R1 or interferon and interferon alpha beta R2, there is phosphorylation and starting of JAK-STAT pathway. Okay, this one, this side, and then you have VAC RAC1 MAP kinases cascade, and then you have NF kappa beta activation. Also, the NF kappa beta activation pathway can also activate mTOR, which has a particular signal for elongation factor 4E, and there is mRNA translation of specific protein. So finally, they activate a group or set of response that has an important function in inflammatory response. It further activates the interferon stimulated gene antiviral response, chromatin remodeling function, and then there is survival signal expression of antigen processing presentation signal. So the type 1 interferons, the important ones are the alpha and the beta. When they bind to the specific receptor, they activate these 4 types of pathways. So type 3 also is very similar. Type 3 receptor is also very similar to the type 1, where it is the receptors are called IL-10 beta or IL-10R2 and IL-28R alpha or interferon lambda R1. These receptors, again, they activate the similar but very less types of pathway compared to the interferon 1. They also recruit the Janus kinases, that is TYK2 and JAK1 or JAK2 and JAK1. They activate the MAP kinase cascade and JAK-STAT cascade. So finally, they also bring about regulation of inflammatory response or stimulate the interferon related stimulated interferon stimulated genes for antiviral response and induce chromatin remodeling. So finally, the induction of the cells by interferon. This you don't always think that viruses only induce the interferons. There can be other inducers also. Like I told you, the polypeptides also can induce the interferons production, and the final effect can be a protective effect or detrimental. Protection, if these during the viral infection they are produced by the epithelial cells, they have protective in function and they stimulate hyperinflammation. That's very good during a bacterial infection also. And then or they can reduce the bacteremia. They can have protective cytokine production induction. They can have bacterial clearance from the tissue. There are detrimental effects also of type 1 production. If they are activated too much, there is pro-inflammatory response. There is production of interleukin 17. They are cytokines and they have detrimental effect. Immune cells recruitment happens if there is like auto like production of this immune cell recruitment happens at this site. It's not required. And there is immune suppressive cytokine production also because of effect of interferons. But most of it, the good effects are only considered. So coming to the second type of interferon, that is the type 2 interferon, they are stimulated by T cell antigen Staphylococcus enterotoxin A and mitogens like phytohemagglutinin. So we'll see what kind of effect it has. So this interferon gamma is the only member of type 2 interferon. Interferon gamma plays a very important role in host defense by promoting macrophage activation or upregulating of antigen processing and presentation molecules. Those are MHC molecules, or driving the development and activation of Th1 cells, or enhancing the natural killer cell activity, regulating B cell function, and inducing the production of chemokines that promote effector cells trafficking to the site of inflammation. Interferon gamma is like historically known for its cytotoxic, cytostatic, and anti-tumor properties. Multiple studies have been made on this interferon gamma, which in context with uh, dependent proliferative and tumorogenic activity. So the interferon gamma is the only type 2 interferon that shows antiviral and immunomodulatory properties. So it is encoded from the chromosome 12 region. So the biologically active interferon gamma is non-covalently linked to a homodimer. Okay, here the receptor is interferon gamma receptor 1. This homodimers bind to the external domain of two interferon gamma R1 or CD119 chains, which interact with interferon gamma R2 to form the functional interferon gamma receptor complex. So if it is only a homodimer interferon gamma R1 subunit, the receptor complex are associated with the JAK kinases, Janus tyrosine kinases, the JAK1, while interferon gamma R2 is associated with JAK2. Activation of JAK1 and JAK2 results in phosphorylation of the receptor and subsequent recruitment and phosphorylation of STAT1. So after STAT1 phosphorylation, the STAT1 also gets homodimerization and there is nuclear translocation. Once the nucleus, it goes into the nucleus, the STAT1 homodimer binds to interferon gamma activated sequence, that is the gas sequence, and in the promoter of the target gene they regulate the transcription. So many of the target genes that are induced by interferon gamma STAT1 signaling are transcription factors that drive the expression of secondary response gene. There are like important transcription factors like interferon, like MAP kinases, PI3, AKT pathway, then NF kappa beta signaling pathway that regulate many other genes. So there can be interferon receptor 1 or CD119 receptor dimerizing with the interferon gamma R2. Once the interferon type 2 binds, there can be activation of JAK1, JAK2 signaling that binds to STAT and activates the JAK-STATs pathway, and also there can be PI3 AKT signaling which will activate elongation factor F4E and 4EBB1 proteins, and finally there is effective mRNA translation. Apart from that, they also activate NF kappa beta that causes transcription of the genes which are important for survival signals, and also there is regulatory inflammatory response. Okay, this is about type 2 interferon signaling. So cumulative of all, there is all the three types of interferon signaling will induce antiviral immunity and antimycobacterial immunity. So we'll see what type of this interferon stimulating regulatory elements are produced, and out of which you have to study double stranded dependent pathway and independent pathway. Double stranded induced proteins are the adenylate cyclases, cyclases, and then you have protein kinase R, and independent pathways are the proteasome complex, a novel proteasome complex which is synthesized, and MXA protein. So you have both the effector proteins which are synthesized by these interferons. The first one is ISG15. ISG15 was found out when the study of ubiquitinine was going on. The ubiquitinine is a tagging small protein which is used as a tagging protein for proteasome to degrade that protein. If some protein is formed in not the correct manner, either the sequence may be different which may lead to structural deformity, or the folding would have not happened properly, those proteins are tagged for breakdown into amino acids by tagging with a ligase and then proteasome system, and that is called ubiquitination. And then during that study only this ISG15 protein was also studied, because it was a small protein and they had cloned and seen that it is also a tagging protein. But later only it came to know that they are involved in interferon signaling, and they are ubiquitin like protein which are synthesized in response to interferon. They mediate something called as aggregation. That means they are the expression of interferon stimulated protein 15 kilodaltons, that is ISG15, is through interferon signaling. There is also other proteins of the complex, like the E1 activating enzyme, that is UBE1L, and then a multiple E2 conjugating enzyme, that is UBCH8, E3 ligase enzymes, HERC5, which are produced, and these are coordinately induced by the interferon 1 through the interferon stimulated response elements in their respective gene promoter region. E1, E2, E3 protein subsequently catalyzes the conjugation of interferon stimulated gene 15 to numerous protein substrate to modulate pleiotropic cellular response to inhibit viral production. This process is known as egylation. I pronounce it as egylation, that is reversibly regulated by proteases such as USP18, which are also induced by interferons. Certain viral protein reverse this. They form degylation of the target protein. Now the target protein, when they are ubiquitinated, they are sentenced to breakdown. That means they are chopped down. But when you have this egylation, they are made not to break down, but they are made somehow resistant to the viral infection, or they modify this protein by egylation, and then they allow the protein to survive more. There are many types of target proteins which are recognized by this ISG15. Almost 158 target proteins are known. Many of these substrates have important role in type 1 interferon response, including the JAK, STAT, RIG, and antiviral effector proteins. They are known to prevent virus mediated degradation of interferon regulatory factor 3, thereby increasing the induction of interferon beta expression. Egylation has also been shown to modulate the functions of enzymes such as egylation of eukaryotic translation initiation factor 4e family member 2, and conjugation of ISG15 to protein phosphatase 1b suppress the activity of this enzyme, thereby enhancing the NF-kappa beta signaling. There are certain proteins which are known to inhibit ISG15, like HIV GAG protein. NS1 of influenza binds to ISG15 at the N-terminal and blocks the egylation. There are several viral proteases from severe acute respiratory syndrome associated coronaviruses and Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever virus, equine arteritis virus, porcine respiratory and reproductive syndrome virus, Synbis virus. They are found to mediate degylation. That means they targets are degylated and then neutralized, thereby effective replication of the virus happen. The important role of egylation in the interferon mediated antiviral response is to modification of the components of immune response. The second type of protein group belongs to the guanine hydrolyzing proteins. So this guanine hydrolyzing proteins is a group of proteins, and there are basically four groups, subdivision, which are involved in host resistance to pathogen. They include P47 guanylate binding protein, P65 guanylate binding protein, the very large inducible guanylate binding protein, and MX protein. Out of the four family, only MX protein have been well characterized in antiviral role, and they are like induced by type 1 and type 3 interferon. So this family is a family of GTpases which comprise two main GTPases, MXA and MSB in humans, and MX1 and MX2 in mice. They were the first antiviral proteins to be studied extensively under this group. The two human MX proteins are encoded on chromosome 21, and mouse protein are encoded from chromosome 16. Viruses that are susceptible to the activities of MX protein include orthomyxoviruses, paramyxoviruses, rhabdovirus, toga virus, and bunya virus. So, clinically significant Coxsackie virus and hepatitis B virus are also susceptible to human MXA antiviral activity. So, MX proteins are expressed by various cell types in peripheral tissue, for example, hepatocytes, endothelial cells, immune cells, including peripheral blood mononuclear cells, plasma cytoid, dendritic cells, and myeloid cells. So, MX proteins have a large N-terminal GTPase domain, a central interacting domain, and a C-terminal leucine zipper domain. The leucine zipper domain and the the central interacting domain are very much important, and they are required to recognize the target viral structure. The main viral target seems to be the nucleocapsid structure. MX proteins can survey exocytic events and mediate vesicle trafficking to trap essential viral components, and doing so they prevent the viral replication at the early time points. Both this MXA and 1 associate with subunits of influenza virus. This has been proved virus polymerase to block viral gene transcription. So if you see, this is MXA protein, which is induced by type 1 interferons, and then gene expression is induced through the interferon stimulated response element in the gene promoters, and there is a transcription of this MXA protein. The MXA protein accumulates in the cytoplasm on intracellular membrane such as endoplasmic reticular membrane as oligomers formed by association between the leucine zipper domains and central interacting domains of the protein. Following viral infection, MXA monomers are released and they are bind to viral nucleocapsid and other viral component and trap them and then degrade them. So you can see this orange color is the human counterpart. Yeah, in this picture they have explained porcine, mouse and all, but I am only concentrating the human counterpart. So after viral entry, when the proteins are produced, they can affect the redistribution of N protein of CoIV and LAC-CV enzyme. Influenza protein translation they can inhibit, and also they can inhibit the viral RNA transport of toga virus and influenza virus. Apart from that, these proteins can act on transcription inhibition also of VSV, that is varicella VSV virus. And then this is like a coordinated function. They can affect the different types of signal pathways, either in the transcription or assembly or transport, or during budding of this group of proteins are very effective. Coming to the next pathway that is induced by double-stranded RNA is the production of 2' 5' oligoadenylate synthase, which is known as OSA, is expressed at constitutive levels. The interferon response elements, after getting triggered by interferons, basically majority type 1 interferons, they produce this enzyme, that is 2' 5' oligoadenylate synthase, and this protein accumulates in the cell cytoplasm as inactive monomers Following activation, the activating component is the double-stranded RNA. The enzyme oligomerizes to form a tetramer that synthesizes 2' 5' oligoadenylates. This oligoadenylates in turn activate another enzyme, that is ribonuclease EL. This they are also called as RNase EL. The binding of 2' 5' oligoadenylates to RNase L triggers the dimerization of enzyme monomers through their kinase domain, and this enables the RNase L to cleave cellular RNAs. Now, this cellular RNAs as well as the viral RNAs together will be cleaved on. So, it's an important interferon stimulating system. RNA degraded by RNase L can also activate other cytoplasmic pathogen recognition receptors such as RIG1, MDA5, resulting in further induction of interferon gene expression. So once the RNA cell is activated, it can either degrade the importance is viral RNA genome, thereby elimination of viral genome, or viral RNA that leads to inhibition of viral protein synthesis. In turn, it has the other side effects also, which are like cellular mRNA can be degraded or ribosomal RNA can be degraded. That also has a slight damage to the host cell machinery required for the viral replication. They also degrade the self or the non-self RNA production of small duplex RNA that will induce interferon beta. They also induce rRNA and other RNAs to be reduced in number, thereby leading to elimination of virus infected cell by apoptosis. So another protein which is important is protein kinase R. This is constitutively expressed by induction with the type 1 interferon, and this under the control of kinase conserved sequence and interferon stimulated response element in the promoter of protein kinase R gene. The kinase accumulates in the nucleus and cytoplasm as an inactive monomer, which is activated directly by viral RNAs. This viral RNA can be single stranded or double stranded. We will see further in the slides what should be the minimum length. There can be false activation also. So the length of this viral RNAs and the type modification of this viral RNA, if it is single stranded, that is very important for activation of protein kinase R. The kinase accumulates in the nucleus and cytoplasm as an inactive monomer, which is activated directly by viral RNAs and several other ligands such as ceramide or protein activator PACT. PACT means protein activator of interferon inducible protein kinase. Followed by activation, protein kinase R monomers are phosphorylated. Once they are phosphorylated, they dimerize to form active enzyme. This activated protein kinase R regulates several cell signaling pathways, of which the crucial function of protein kinase R is in viral defense, that is inhibition of translation by phosphorylation of an important factor, that is eukaryotic translation initiation factor 2 alpha, thereby inhibiting the translation of viral induced mRNAs. They have various biological and biochemical evidence that this protein kinase R targets alternative to that elongation factor 2 alpha also. Under normal circumstances, protein kinase R is maintained in an inactive monomeric form, that there is steric hindrance of the kinase domain, that is the N-terminal domain. This repression is released by activating ligands, including viral RNAs, polyanionic molecules such as heparin or ceramide, and protein activators, which elicit a conformational change that allows the ATP binding to the domain, and there is kinase action, and there is a phosphorylation of this domain, thereby activating the enzyme. The protein kinase R, which is activated, consists of homodimer oriented in parallel back-to-back arrangement with active sites of the enzyme facing outwards. So dimerization induces and requires autophosphorylation at several key residues. Activation of protein kinase R following dimerization leads to phosphorylation of elongation factor 2 alpha to halt translation. Direct activation of protein kinase R is shown by various RNAs to the RNA binding motif, which is at the end terminal of this protein kinase R. The length of this motif is the length of binding of the RNA is very important, because minimum 16 base pairs and longer moieties only can bind, but induction of the kinase activity is by longer RNAs more than 16 base pairs. Double-stranded RNA, which are longer than 30 base pairs, activate protein kinase R more effectively, and single-stranded RNA of 47 base pairs that have limited tertiary structures activate the kinase if they contain 5' triphosphate. As cellular RNAs are predominantly monophosphates, this enables selective activation, like apart from this mRNA present in the normal our cells. Other pathogen associated molecules like lipopolysaccharide, which is a ligand of toll-like receptor 4, can also activate protein kinase R via another bridging protein. Protein kinase R also interacts with tumor necrosis factor receptor associated factor family of adapter molecules that are integral toll-like receptor signaling pathway. Protein kinase activator packed responds to stress inducing molecules such as hydrogen peroxide, ceramide, and cytokines. Protein kinase are activated by cleavage of inhibitory N-terminal, can be done by caspases also, like caspase 3, caspase 7, caspase 8, which generate a constitutively active and truncated kinase domain. So the role of protein kinase R, apart from this stress response and other molecules response, which have been clearly proved by mutant and transgenic mouse models. If you have this mutated or transgenic mouse, they become very susceptible to VSV, vesicular stomatitis virus, influenza virus, and Bunevera virus. So this has all experiments with protein kinase R deficient mouse embryonic fibroblasts show that protein kinase R is involved in protection against several RNA viruses, including hepatitis C virus, hepatitis D virus, whale nail virus, HIV-1 Synbid virus, encephalomyocarditis virus, and foot and mouth disease virus, as well as some DNA virus such as HSV1. So this antiviral action of these interferons are by cumulative inductions of the MXA protein or the type of proteasome like associated complex proteins which carry out egylation. Apart from that, you can have this induction of protein kinase R, oligoadenylate synthesis, protein GTPase, that is the MAX protein. Apart from this, interferons can also induce adenosine deaminase, which will deaminate the adenosine residues, that also will affect the RNA editing. and then degrade the RNA. This antiviral action of interferons is also influenced by induction of MHC complexes, which again they can display the viral proteins onto the cell surface. Thereby, if it is the normal protein, normal cells induce MHC1, more of MHC1 production, with thereby displaying the proteins for killing the cells by natural killer cell or by CD8 plus cytotoxic T cells, or they can induce MHC1 in other MHC2 in other immune cells like macrophages, and they induce viral induced cell death. So interferons are very important groups of proteins. Thank you.